Hello. It's been a while since I've been live here, and I thought this would be a fun thing to do. So I don't know how regular this will be, but we're here today. So thank you so much for being here. This is an sort of extemporaneous live event. My name is Jeff, and basically, yeah, I'm here to take questions or just chit-chat a little bit with you. I must admit, this was going to be a coffee hour kind of a thing, but I've already had coffee this morning. So yeah, I'm just here hanging out. I had a bunch of thoughts, things that I was going to mention. I have now forgotten those, but that's fine. I do have some water, which I'm going to partake of to try to stay hydrated throughout this little chit chat. The chat is open, so feel free to say hello, ask a question, whatever. Yeah, that's really it. I don't have like an agenda or anything like that. I'm just here to chit chat. Hello, this is Atlas Affin, or Affin, not sure. Opera Lars, sup? Just hanging out. Not a whole lot is going on. Wow, thank you very much. I'm glad. It's fun to be here. I used to do this all the time. Good evening to you in Germany. Good morning here. It's kind of late morning here in California. Eric, hello. Thank you for joining us this morning, afternoon, or whatever it may happen to be in your neck of the woods, as one might say. One moment, please. All right. Let's see. Dion, just want to say that I really appreciate videos, such great advice and amazing warm-ups. You're very welcome. Hello, Lila. Pleasure to see you here this morning, or evening as it were, in your area. Jonas, hi. Tell me why I just finished a vocal warm-up video. I don't know. I presume because you wanted to warm up your voice. I'm actually tenor, but want deep bass vocal range. Can it be possible? Well, that's an interesting. Eric's from the Netherlands. How cool. Yeah, the lower boundary on the voice is a much more hard and fast kind of zone. It's much more flexibility in terms of getting more upper range. So that lower boundary is a bit trickier. Now, that being said, I'm speaking from the context of consistent tone quality. So if you don't mind having like a little bit of vocal fry and some changes in the tone quality, then you can certainly find some lower pitches down there. But the upper range is going to be much more flexible in terms of generating more overall range. Hello, Caitlin. Hanged fawn. Hanged fawn? Hi, won't be able to stay for long, sadly. Your lessons are helping me very much during the lockdown here in the UK. Thank you a lot. You're very welcome. Thanks for joining us. The video resolution is not. Hopefully this is still okay. Hello from Russia. Hello from Russia. Hey, Jeff. You're doing well. I have a question, please. Does breathing the most important thing about singing? Like, if your breathing is good, your singing will automatically. I wouldn't say automatically, but breathing is it's a very, very integral part of our singing apparatus. So think about it this way. You can, and it depends kind of on the range too. If you're only singing below the zona de passaggio, then you can probably get away with kind of mediocre engagement and airflow. But if you really want to develop an upper register, then the whole apparatus is dependent on the ability to maintain adequate and dynamic subglottic engagement. So yeah, airflow is really, really important. That being said, it's not like it's just going to automatically get better. Everything's got to work together. You've got to work on vowel alignment. You have to work on your ear training. Generally speaking, ear training above our speaking voice range is more challenging. So we have to learn how to hear those pitches accurately. That will help with our overall intonation and accuracy. So it all works together. Caitlin, could you do a contralto specific warm-up in the future? I do the tenor but find that my voice has slightly different breaks. Absolutely. So the alto range, like the videos on my channel that are labeled alto, those adhere to the contralto range designation. So they assume a mid-voice registration event around G sharp above middle C. They take into account secondo passaggio around D5. Now, those are the contralto range designations as you will find them in like Richard Miller's texts and things like that. So if you're thinking of them differently, then I can understand why there'd be more of a discrepancy. But the labeled alto range, they adhere to contralto range registration events. Hi, Jeff. Hello, Thomas Hodges. You're the best teacher. Love your. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Atlas. Joyce. Hi, Jeff. I just wanted to say thanks for your videos. I use them to start my warm-up for all my performances. Fantastic. Fantastic, Joyce. Thank you. And thanks for watching. Thanks for chiming in today. I really appreciate you being here. Thomas, I am so happy to talk to you. Likewise, likewise. I hope the video is coming through okay. It's like I'm getting all kinds of like weird stuff on the thingy, but it seems like it's okay, and the chat seems to be working fine. I haven't done this in a while because there was like a lot of, it was just the whole YouTube studio thing just got really weird. Hi, Jeff. Thank you for the baritone warm-up. I'm not as low as baritone, but whenever I do a tenor warm-up, it always ruins my voice. I'm sorry to hear that. And thanks for your baritone warm-ups. You're very welcome. Are super Zatar. Jeff, admire you a lot. Every day I do your warm-up routines for tenor. Greetings from Mexico. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for watching. Thanks for finding value in the videos. Keep on singing. Mucus is the issue. Sometime while singing, it keeps irritating the throat. So that's interesting that the choice of words there, irritation and mucus. If you've got irritation, the mucus is probably there to try to help the irritation heal. So you might have to take a look at how you're phonating from day to day, and that can perhaps help with reducing some of that mucus. But the mucus itself shouldn't really be irritating your throat unless there's something else going on. So take a look at how you're using vowel alignment. Take a look at your airflow and engagement. See if you can discern something in that practice, and then if you make some subtle adjustments to it, see if the mucus subsides. This is also assuming that, good hydration and you're taking good care of your voice and watching how much you talk and stuff like that. Melody, Michelle, Duncan, your warm-up routines are fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. You're very, very welcome. David Walsh. Hello, David. Question. I believe many chorus voices have good tone, technique, musicianship, but to be a star or in-demand soloist requires something special in the timbre. Your thoughts? I think, David, your questions are always incredibly on point. A chorus is not like the vowel alignment and the shapes, the balance of tone qualities and things like that. The onus is on blending. The whole point is to blend with whomever is standing or seated next to you. That's what's going on in the chorus. Those vowels are not necessarily the same type of alignments and balances that you would use for solo singing. So if your primary place of singing and the primary place where you're getting instruction for singing is in a choral group, then it, I think, behooves one to consider that the director is considering the voices within the choir or chorus and asking for vowel shapes and alignment that will suit the entirety of the chorus and blend it in a way that they want, that their ear hears. The soloist is looking for the most efficient shape, the most resonant and efficient shapes of those vowels for their own specific instrument. And I think that that is kind of what you are touching on here in your question, that you are hearing or perceiving a difference in those vowel shapes and alignments, and I think you're absolutely right. In one respect, I feel like your question kind of answered itself. It's all right there, really. But yeah, the choral groups and things like that, it's about the bigger picture. It's not about the individual quite as much. I found by warming up before I sing, Thomas. Ha 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 ha, Maestro. Hello, Ronaldo. Thomas kind of like a half question. Caitlin says, thank you, Thomas. Oh, right, here we are. I found by warming up before I sing, I can do the prayer by Andreas Botticelli. Brocelli. Excellent. You're awesome, bruh. William Shorter. Thank you. I appreciate that. Ronaldo, by the end of 21, I'll be in LA. We'll meet, Maestro. Very good. Sounds delightful. Hopefully we'll have like vaccines or things like that. I don't know. Because right now it's all via Zoom and stuff like that. James, what would you consider to be the fundamentals of singing, i.e. breathing, vowel alignment, etc.? Cheers. But yeah, basically, vowel alignment. So E, A, A, O, U, getting consistent tone quality and results across those 5 vowels. Apagio breath management, airflow, breathing. On my website, I've got the AAA method thing, and I call that airflow, alignment, and articulation. And so what I'm trying to say by titling it that way is that articulation, the integration of the airflow and the vowel alignment, is almost its own thing in and of itself. So we work on airflow and we work on vowel alignment. Usually we do that with melismatic exercises in order to get it to work together. But that tonal onset, the coordination of the beginning of airflow and the adduction of the vocal fold is almost its own thing. And so those are the kind of big picture items, the larger overview for what I consider to be the fundamentals of singing. Thomas, so even baritones can still do higher notes, Jeff? Yes, absolutely. I once studied with, I don't know how famous he is, but he's certainly very famous here in the Western United States. Baritone vocalist who used to say that he masqueraded as a tenor. He would kind of do all these tenor roles and things like that. Mr. Jeff, every day I'm doing warm-up for my voice and I want to ask for you one question. Why do I stay on the whistle register? I am sick for now. I don't know. Is the actual answer, because I've never heard you sing. Could be any number of different things that have you stuck in one area or another. Though I must admit, I once had a teacher who used to talk about how they would always end up kind of singing around that area when they weren't feeling particularly well, but I never heard her do it, so I'm not exactly sure all the ins and outs of it. The video is really great without problems. Thank you, Lila. I appreciate that. That's good because, again, I'm getting all kinds of weird stuff here on this end. William Shorter, love the tenor warm-up. It's just awesome. Thank you. Gosh, that's the user ID. Gosh. I have a question. If you know Harry Styles, and is he a low voice singer, but how does he hit C5 in chest voice? Well, I don't know his voice intimately, which is to say I've heard him sing, like I've heard the tracks. I'm fond of saying that whenever a microphone is involved, all bets are off because so much can be done in the studio. So I don't know where his registration events are. I don't know all the ins and outs of what his voice does. But it's the fundamental basis of your question assumes something that we cannot assume, which is that C5 is his actual chest voice. A good vocalist, when making smooth transitions across the registration events, will, to the casual listener, sound as if they're using their chest voice. There's no good words for this, unfortunately, because it all sounds disingenuous. You use words like We mask it. It's an illusion. It's, I use the words smooth transition to talk about these things. But when you make smooth transitions across the registration events, you maintain consistent tone quality. And as such, until you understand what it is that is happening and understand the registration events that are in the voices, one could assume that it's just the chest voice, but it's not. The registration events are almost always observed, and as such, we get voce piena in testa is the term that you'll find in vocal pedagogy books, the sound of chest voice in head. And C5, for nearly all male vocalists, will be in what's called the falsetto register. That's not to be, and I say that and I cringe because, of course, you say the word falsetto and everyone thinks of a light, airy, soft tone. That is certainly true when we use falsetto phonation in the head voice range or even lower. But when we have made good transitions, when we retain adequate adduction or closure of the vocal fold by allowing for those transitions, we get a very full sound. Da, 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 da. Hi, when I shift my chest resonance to head, I'm getting headaches after some singing. Is that normal? Not that I've heard of. I'm not sure what might be happening there, but I do hope you're okay. Yeah, I don't know. I would take a little break maybe, and investigate what's going on. Hard to say what could be happening there. No head voice. So if you're not using your head voice and you're just belting, then you might just be straining. I don't know. It's hard to say without hearing and getting a chance to work with vowels and see about registration events and things like that. How would you recommend one get better at holding notes in the mixed voice? I've been trying for years but still can't quite grasp it. That does depend a bit on what you mean by mixed voice. If you mean the zona de passaggio, that's one thing. If you mean above the secondo passaggio, it's kind of similar, but a little bit different still. It's probably obvious, but definitely take a look at your breathing, your breath management, and how you're using breath, how you're using engagement. If you're practicing appoggio, if you're not practicing appoggio, then that would be step one, in my opinion, is to dive into that practice and really try to grok, if you're familiar with that term, which is kind of weird, I know, but really grasp onto what appoggio means. That system of breathing is much more dynamic than what you'll typically find people talking about. And as such, it will respond much better to the voice, and particularly as you sustain the pitch over time. If I had one overwhelming thought about sustain in the mix range or sustain above the secondo passaggio, it would be that the effort level, and I'm speaking subjectively for myself here, the effort level feels as if it continues to increase the longer that you have to sustain that particular pitch. So the further it goes on and on and on, the more it feels like you're working and working and working. Too frequently, I think that we come at the notion of sustain the way one would think of sustaining a pitch on an organ or, a piano where I just press the pitch. And then I don't really have to exert any more effort. Singing is not like that. It's really an ongoing, continuous effort and engagement. Holding notes. Your baritone warm-ups have made it so I can easily go into power notes instead of falsetto. Is that good? Yes, if that's what you want. Ultimately, I think of vocal teaching and vocal study as a means by which to achieve flexibility so that you can produce the kind of phonation that is required for what it is that you are singing. So sometimes maybe a nice, sustained, well-balanced, just really, quite frankly, professional sounding voce piena in testa in the upper register of the voice is what's required. Sometimes you might need to, belt a little or scream a little bit for the artistic requirements of the song that you are singing. Sometimes you might need to sound really wispy and airy or something like that. The point is to have choice. So the videos on my channel, what I'm trying to do is help us all to establish neutral phonation. So we have neutral production of tone across the various registers of our voice, from which we can then choose what you want to do artistically. Shalala, hello. Question, I really don't like the way my mixed voice sounds. I got the feedback that it is not very connected. How can I get a more connected sound? An interesting question. Whoa, that bounced up there. Depends on the nature of the disconnect. If you are making a transition, but the connection, ultimately this boils down a lot to the balance of the engagement of the musculature. So if you are too thyroarytenoid dominant, and those are the chest voice muscles, then you can get that can be a desirable sound at some points. If it's too cricothyroid dominant, then you typically come off, people would describe it as being very heady or hollow sounding. If the vocal folds separate, then you will get that falsetto tone production where there's air seeping over the vocal folds. So step one, Shalala, is to try to ascertain just exactly which of those, or what kind of combination of elements is the problem, and then approach it from there. If it's a falsetto tone production, then working from the top down can help you get vowels that remain adducted. If it's that it's just imbalanced, then a lot of melismatic exercises across the secundo passaggio, and particularly focusing on the secundo passaggio, is really, really where you want to be. Like that is going to smooth out that transition. So focusing in on that. And if you're too thyroarytenoid dominant, then once again, working from the top down can be very, very helpful, just in terms of learning to balance out the cricothyroid activity and making sure that you're not, if you've belted a lot or exclusively in the past, then that can be really tricky to try to get more cricothyroid activity as you ascend over the secundo passaggio. Walked in on what seemed to be the end of the answer to what I was looking for. You can always play this back, because this will be published as a video on the YouTube channel. Once I end it, it'll stay here, so you can always go back. I really like how you keep the exercises in time. Thank you. You're very welcome. Brand, hey Jeff, have you ever used semi-occluded vocal tract exercises, like using a straw? I find they are helpful warm-ups. Thanks. Yes. From time to time, you'll find them all over the channel. The lip trill is a semi-occluded vocal tract exercise. The NG noise is either semi or completely occluded, because of course all the airflow goes out the nose in that exercise, and I use those all the time. Hear our voice. How can I prevent tension in the throat? Vowel alignment and apagio breath management would be a starting point. That would be the place to begin, I would say. That's a very, very broad question, in other words. Thoughts on Dimash and his whoa, that popped up again. Thoughts on Dimash? Any tips on how to achieve? Yeah, without getting people like that in lessons and being able to explore, it's just because of the notes that one can sing does not make you a soprano. The location of the registration events is what makes one a soprano, mezzo, tenor, alto, all those things like that. So we can't call him that just based upon the overall tessitura that he can sing. How to achieve? Work on your registration events, work on your airflow and vowel alignment. That's going to be it. And certainly a lot of extended range techniques, probably whistle tones, will be something that you'll have to work on. Do you have any exercises used for building the upper register? I practice assiduously working around and through the passaggio, but I'm asking about adding a note or two at the top. Depends on what you mean by the top. If you're talking about the transition to the falsetto range, which is typically a perfect fourth above the secondo passaggio, then I'm really quite fond of the super lip trill, that thing that I do. That I find to be particularly helpful in helping us make the transition across that tertiary registration event. What it helps with primarily is that at that point the vocal folds have to separate slightly, but the parts that are still adducted, we want them to remain adducted. If they split apart too much, then everything tends to fall apart for us, and we either strain or we lose the notes entirely, or it gets incredibly airy. So if you are, like for example, David, if you're a baritone and you're talking about an extra note above G to G sharp, that's probably continuing to work on the secondo passaggio, but increasing your overall engagement quite significantly as you're approaching that A flat G sharp will probably do the trick. If you're talking about A natural or above, that's when the vocal folds are if you're going to make that transition, then they need to start changing the way that they are configured ever so slightly. And for that practice, I would recommend exploring the super lip trill. You will notice a difference in the way that the phonation feels. Growing accustomed to it will be very, very helpful, and then eventually changing it over to working with vowels as well. Throat tension alleviation is something I'm interested in as well. Definitely have talked about that a lot. Yeah, that's a combination of vowel alignment, airflow, and of course, we mustn't forget about old habits. So whatever old habits you've had, they will absolutely impact how or whether or not you carry on any of this throat tension. So all of those things are going to be part of that process. Kurth, my ENT told me I have chronic laryngitis from singing. He told me to drink a lot of water and speak softly. He also said to see a voice pathologist if I want to sing. Any thoughts on this? Doctor's orders. I would do those things. The speaking softly I find a little bit confusing, but far be it from me to go against what they're saying. Chronic laryngitis. I don't know. I would say doctor's orders. Go, if you can get an appointment with a speech pathologist or a voice pathologist, do so. See what they have to say. It does depend on what the source of you say it's from singing, but that may be like how you're singing too. So obviously it bears kind of investigating like the mode of phonations that you're employing. If you're using a lot of vocal fold tension, I can understand why that would result in some vocal irritation. Thomas, so choosing opera as a good direction? I sung a lot in choir and church. I mean, I would say sing what you find inspiring. If you find opera inspiring and you want to do that as an artistic pursuit, awesome. I would highly recommend you go and explore it. If not, there's lots of music out there. There's lots of different things that you can choose to follow up on as artistic pursuits, and I would explore those. For some, opera is going to be what really, really excites them and what makes them, really want to sing, practice, and study. If that's what it is for you, awesome, carry on. Who is your singing inspiration and inspiration in general? Kind of changes from day to day, week to week, and all that kind of stuff. I'm very fond of Pablo Casals, and particularly the quote about playing his scales. I'll share it again. Pardon me. Well, excuse me. I guess he was like 90 or something like that, 90, 91, in an interview. And the interviewer asked him, why at 90 is he still practicing his scales? And what Pablo Casals said was, because I see improvement. And I think he might have said, I think I see improvement. And that's kind of, in my mind, what it is to be a musician. It's not, I don't think of being a musician as someplace that we ever arrive to. It is something that we are always aspiring to. So we're always working, practicing our scales, exploring new ways of doing what we do. And I think about it like that way. But inspiration, right now I'm listening to a lot of Jeff Buckley. I kind of come back to Jeff Buckley from time to time. I almost always, if I'm listening to music, I almost always have Debussy or Ravel playing. I love that music. I'm listening to the instrumental music there. The other day I was listening to Boards of Canada because the music that I make, definitely it's popular in its scope. It's not classical music. And I have relied upon acoustic guitars and things like that. But I'm always looking for new sounds, new ways to kind of weave textures and try and take the music outside of the kind of just everyday workaday world. So sounds and things like that. I was listening to, who was I listening to? I'll think of it in a minute. But yeah, any of those things, any of that kind of stuff. Where am I? I lost myself here. Wow, lovely, amazing questions. Are you make more ear training videos? Absolutely, absolutely. Over chords, very useful. Thank you, Jeff. Absolutely, I will keep on doing that. I am, in the past, when I've done these live events, I have gotten very ragged by the end. So I am going to pause for just a moment here, and I will be right back. Stay tuned. You can enjoy the lava lamp for just a moment, and I will be momentarily back. There you go. You should be able to hear me now again. Hi. Thanks for that. Where are we? Ear training covered that. I'm trying to sing the phrase love and the love ever in the tone A4 during the phrase, breaking into falsetto and switching vowels. Yeah, pardon me. If you're waiting to A4 to try to use, now, breaking into falsetto, so you're not trying to sing it with a falsetto tone production, but it's flying off the vocal fold. And this is not going to be unusual if you've been pushing your chest voice all the way to that point and then trying to switch for that one pitch. The secondo passaggio, and I'm assuming here that you're a male vocalist, and if you're pushing and pushing the chest voice all the way up there, then the disparity in muscle engagement is going to result in that falsetto, that breaking out into the falsetto range, or tone production really, because it's not the range. And oh dear, I hope the video is still okay. So even out your phonation across the secondo passaggio. Find the most neutral point of transition. The most neutral point of transition is not the highest note that you can sing before you have no other options. That's something else. You can kind of call that what you might like. That's not the neutral point of transition. Find the neutral point of transition, and that's going to facilitate getting across the secondo passaggio, getting that A4, so you have a full sounding voice, voce piena in testa, the sound of chest voice in head. That's what would be my recommendation. So work out the secondo passaggio. Tips for getting over performance anxiety. Sometimes I even struggle to sing in front of my singing teacher. I can totally get that. I get nervous. I was nervous this morning before it was time for me to come online. Goodness. The thing about that, Amy, is that it's going to be, I really think that this will be unique to you. And so my solutions for performance anxiety hopefully will inspire you to think about your situation and explore what will work best for you. For me, it changes over time, but it is rooted in the idea that the people for whom I am interacting or performing or appearing here live to offer thoughts, teach, label it how you might like, want me to do well, that they want me to be successful. And from that, I've then extrapolated all kinds of different little mnemonic devices and internal dialogues and things like that to help me perform closer to my potential. So that takes the shape of having repeatable phrases and things like that. For me, it's something quite simple. Just they want me to succeed. They want me to do well. And I might repeat that to myself over and over again as I'm getting ready to perform. In terms of a physicality of things, I root myself down through my heels. I will do a sort of very conscious and deliberate check through my person. So I try to feel into my heels. I feel through my ankles. I keep my knees flexible and bent ever so slightly. So I can bounce into my heels. I feel the weight in my thighs and I feel the levelness of my hips. So I'm not hitched over to one side or another. I'm feeling the weight of my body down through my hips. And that serves as a foundation for me to expand laterally through my rib cage and feel the engagement of my intercostal and rectus abdominis muscles as I'm singing. So the key thing to take away from that practice is that it is largely breath related. The danger in getting really, really anxious, and I think this is true for any performer, but as a vocalist where our instrument is quite fueled by air, if that collapses on us, then everything starts to suffer for it. And the fear can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so in rooting down that way and focusing so much on expansion and engagement and adequate subglottic air pressure, or support if you like, it helps me get past those initial stages where it can feel like everything is out of control. And once I settle in, then I can start to get into the groove and really feel comfortable and enjoy the process, the process of performance. I've also found that the more I think about performance as a conversation, that the easier it gets. So that then means I'll do things with dynamics. I'll push and pull on dynamics. And it doesn't take very long for the people that you're with. I mean, of course, nowadays we're not doing live performances, but you know, without fail, after a song or two, I would be able to hear the volume, the sort of kind of collateral volume of people in the audience kind of ebb and flow with the dynamics that I was doing. Conscious or not, I mean, it didn't really matter if they were actually paying attention to me. But you would hear it ebb and flow, and before too long, everyone's kind of doing this together, and it just makes for an incredibly satisfying performance. So I don't know if those will help you or not, but I do hope what it will do is spark some thoughts or ideas that you can explore. And unfortunately, right now, we can't really explore a lot of those options as much as would be advantageous, because of course, the other thing that I would suggest is you get out there and do as much of it as you can to try different things to hopefully address those anxieties and find what works best for you. Because it's really beautiful. It's a magical experience when everything can start to flow together and you and the audience are kind of vibing in the same way. It's lovely. Brilliant, Thomas. I'm glad to hear that you're adding opera. That's cool. Jacob, Jeff, it's been a while. You've been missed. Thank you. Every time I attempt to sing a C5 in mixed voice, my voice cracks and feels as if there's too much compression. Is there any way I can practice this? Yes. I've kind of addressed this earlier in the context of David Walsh's question, but it really depends on where that C5 is in your range. It is almost certainly above the tertiary registration event, and as such, the vocal fold needs to separate ever so slightly while still retaining adduction in the part that is not separated. So the super lip trill is really, really good for this. In practicing across that particular registration event, you'll notice a certain change in the way, you might notice the way it feels differently. To me, it feels a bit different. It may or may not feel different to you. Those feelings, internal physical experiences are entirely subjective. So try the super lip trill through there, then move on to vowels. Try to notice any kind of physical changes, if you feel something physically changing, and then encourage that when you're doing the vowels as well. I share my resonance space, chest and head kind of mix. At that part, when I sing that pitch for a long time, I can feel some headache. No, I haven't experienced that. I'm really sorry, but I don't know what might be happening there. I don't even really have any guesses. I mean, I wonder about like sort of sinus cavity irritations, or if you've got like some blockages that could be loosening, or if you have sinus headaches, and some of the pressure through the sinus cavities could maybe in part be doing something there. I don't know. That might be something for like an ENT. to have a look at, just to make sure that there's nothing wrong. Not to suggest, like, I just don't know. I've never heard of that before. Yeah, yeah, I'm really sorry, but I don't know. I don't know about that one. Shalala, thank you for your answer. Might I put in the request for a top-down exercise video? Yes, Shalala, absolutely. And there are some that are existent. And if I'm not mistaken, you've emailed me in the past. Go ahead and send me an email prompting me for that, and I can send you a few links. Benson, hello, Jeff. I am from Cambodia. I am baritone. I've been watching your channel for 4 months. I did tenor focus on break exercise. I can do it, but the sound is not hollow. High note is a foreign exercise. Well, yeah, if it's not hollow, it'd be interesting to know what it is. Ultimately, we don't want it to be hollow. That's not the end goal. That's just a way to make sure that we're getting adduction, closure, adduction of the vocal fold, but expansion of the vocal fold, elongation of it. That's what happens when the cricothyroid muscles, the muscles that are associated with the head voice, are activated as we make that ascent, and they elongate the vocal fold to facilitate a faster vibration pattern. This is consistent when you hear about laryngeal tilt. It's those cricothyroid muscles that pull on the hyoid cartilage, and that it's all connected in there, and so that elongates the vocal fold. You've heard about people talking about thinning of the vocal fold. Same thing. The mass of the vocal fold is decreased against its area when it's elongated in that way. Chris, thanks for all your awesomeness. You're very welcome. Thank you. Would love to know any tips, resources for self-massage of the throat and tongue and how to reduce tension caused by swallowing. Interesting. I wonder if you're swallowing an awful lot, if there could be just more mucus, if you're staying hydrated and things like that. Self-massage the throat and tongue. I have to say, I have never done any self-massage on the throat or tongue. I've done lots of massage like on the roots of the teeth, which is about activating sort of subjective awareness of the outer facial like stuff, the facial muscles, the flesh there. I will have to take a look into that and perhaps address it in video format. Most of my training and my experience and my teaching does, like, there are parts of it that sort of use monitoring of the throat and the tongue roots. So like there's at least one video or two videos online here on YouTube where I talk about taking a knuckle and placing it into the flesh underneath the chin there to monitor the tongue root when you are changing from vowel to vowel. That can have a very dramatic effect on the alignment of the vowels, and it can also have a very big effect on the flow of air. So there's that. I have also talked a little bit about using the fingers very extremely lightly, not to massage, but just to monitor the position of the larynx and the tissue that's there in the throat that one can lightly, very lightly monitor. But I haven't really gotten into massage or things like that in the throat area. I will take a look into that and maybe do a video on it if I find anything that I feel is particularly valuable. Can lemons and honey actually increase your overall range? I don't think so, but it's really nice in tea, particularly ginger tea. If you haven't seen my recipe online, I'm not going to say it's like a cooking show because there are some amazing cooking shows here on YouTube. But I would say that my recipe at least stands up quite nicely. But I don't think it's going to, it's not going to be drinking it that makes your range increase. It may just mean that you have a nice beverage basically, is what you're going to have there. Water, room temperature water, is really our biggest friend, but that too is not going to increase your range. It is a practice of aligning one's subglottic air pressure, the airflow available to the vocal fold, vowel alignment, vowel modification through the zona de passaggio, and making a good registration event practice. So coming to an understanding of where the secondo passaggio is and working to smooth out that registration event. Hi, Jeff. My ENT has told me that I close my vocal cords in the middle first and then use other muscles to complete the closure, which is causing vocal fatigue. How do I rectify this? Interesting. Fascinating. The question that I ask myself is why one would do that. But that aside, if your ENT is saying that it's perfectly fine for you to sing, then I would use dynamic air pressure exercises in the absolute most comfortable, casual area of your voice and look for the most articulate responses you can. So, for example, for me, that's like about here, give or take. He, he, he. Those are very, very short staccato exercises. Notice that there's no glottal stroke or glottal attack. In other words, you did not hear e, e, e. That's not at all what we want here. Using an H, although you may not hear it, e, 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 keeps the vocal folds separated prior to the beginning of the flow of air. And so what's happening is that when I release air, I am adducting the vocal folds as close to simultaneously as I possibly can. I suspect that that would be a pretty good practice because what you're practicing there is coordination between the vocal fold, and, the closure or adduction of the vocal fold and the flow of air. You can start that with like an M, me, me, me. That'll be a bit easier for starters. Then use an H, he, 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 he. That will be more challenging. If you get a very elongated sound, he, he, that tells you a lot about how you are maintaining engagement in the pauses. As that gets better, challenge yourself by taking a breath in between each of the syllables. He, 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 he. That challenges you by separating the vocal fold and then forcing you to readduct it each time you have an articulation, you have a vowel syllable. And that would be, you know, that's a very, very like succinct synopsis of the practice. That might take some time to develop. It might take more time depending on how your appoggio breath management practices. If you've not done appoggio in the past, or if it's still new, then all of that can take more time because what we have to learn to do is to only release as much engagement as is absolutely necessary. In other words, in those pauses, I am still quite engaged. And that would at least be, you know, a start. But again, like doctor's orders, talk to your ENT about it. That would be my suggestion. I love BOC. I don't know what that means. I hope I didn't say something unfortunate. Any tips on maintaining proper singing form whilst playing an instrument? Good question. I can always sing well when it's all I'm doing. Multitasking leads me to strain. Guitar is what I play. Posture will be the first thing that I would look at with the guitar because boy, is it easy to kind of curl around those things. Additionally, when I play guitar, I really get the neck out in front of me so that it doesn't lean too heavily on my abdominal musculature, but I also have to be very conscious of the lateral expansion of the rib cage. So I really try to get the guitar oriented carefully. And that's even just while I'm sitting. Standing can be an entirely another measure. So I would first look at posture. Look at the orientation of the instrument. If you've got a dreadnought size body, that can prove even more challenging. If you're playing a triple O or like an OM, that might be a little bit easier to manage. If you're playing an electric guitar, then to no small degree, the weight of the instrument itself could be an issue. So like if you were like playing those old PV basses that weigh a metric ton, those things can really, really be challenging. So all of those things, I would say, are worth considering, and probably in your practice going back and forth between the two intermittently. So do a couple vocalizations with the guitar on your person, do a couple without, and then try and get the phonations to sound the same. That is when like the same as when you're not holding the instrument. So being conscious of how you're using your body in that way. That goes, and that is even like, we're not even talking about playing at that point. We're still talking about just integrating with the instrument too. Neat. Any tips or resources from you or others here for senior singers? My voice has gotten raspier in my old age. Keep going. Keep your vocalizations up as much as possible. I certainly hope that you are in good health. The more that you can maintain activity and things like that. Depending on what you mean by old age, too, a lot of what you have moving forward will be based upon what you've done in the past. So if you've had a good vocal practice, hopefully you will still have many, many years of excellent phonation, but maintaining muscle mass and things like that will be very important. So you may just kind of think about lifestyle practices that will help you maintain muscle mass in general. What you think the best way to loosen up your singing muscles? Vocalizations. Enjoy the raspiness. No, but seriously, your voice will keep changing your whole life. You're talking about that. How do artists evolve their vocal abilities? I worked on my voice every day for the last 3 years. I've improved greatly, but I'm hitting a wall. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Record. I'm speaking kind of from myself to a large degree here. It's not that live performance doesn't do this, it certainly does too, but I find that the more time I spend recording, the more I am tasked with evaluating what I can do. But more importantly than that, in the process of recording, I am exploring what I want to hear, where I want the music to go, what I envision I hear in a vocal take. And frequently, I cannot do those things. I have to figure out how to do them. That would be my main thing, is if you're not recording, and this is not the casual, I'm doing my vocalizations and I'm recording myself to evaluate it 2 days later just to see if I'm on target. That's one kind of recording and evaluation. This is a different one. This is the kind of cultivation of a specific performance. What is it that you artistically wish to hear in the performance? What do you want the song to say? How do you want it to feel to you? Because ultimately we cannot know how it feels to other people. We have to go by what we ourselves feel. So, what do you want to say? What are you trying to say? I have found that I can access the answers to those questions most easily and frequently in the recorded domain. So in the cultivation of a track, in the creation of art, creation of music. That would be my suggestion to you. You don't necessarily have to create these for release. You don't have to create them at the highest audio qualities, whatever. It's just to get into the process of recording, evaluating, trying again, using some imagination maybe even, and then moving on from there, moving on to the next project. I'm going to take one more question because I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I really appreciate it. This was an amazing re-entry into the live event domain. Leave me a comment if the feed was okay and all that kind of stuff. I hope the stream was all right. There was all kinds of weird stuff that was happening when last I did these. And so it kind of, I'm not sure if it's resolved or not. It sort of seems like it has been. But last question here. I'm having a bit of trouble when I'm practicing a phrase. I get the urge to cough. Is that a sign that it is not attainable? No, I don't think so. Coughing is just a sign of straining too much. Yeah, Jason Merrow is quite likely on point with that. If you're coughing, it's quite likely that you have too much vocal fold engagement. You don't have quite the right blending of subglottic air pressure, airflow, and the closure and adduction, the formation of the vowels. So, like, circle the wagons, so to speak, come on down to a comfortable area, assess the way that you are shaping those vowels. Do the exercise that I demonstrated a little while earlier about balancing phonation for the person who was having the adduction issues. These things are very much related. And see if you can come to some conclusions about how you are adducting the vocal fold. If it's too hard, that's going to induce fatigue, and that could be resulting in the coughing. It doesn't sound like it's too light. If it were too light, it'd be very, very wispy and airy. So assess that. That will hopefully help you abate the coughing and make it so that you can sing those phrases without those issues. There was one more question about mixed voice. Most of my channel is about the mixed range leading up to the secondo passaggio and making it smooth so you can get a good transition over the secondo passaggio. So mixed voice and head voice are sometimes synonymous. I don't use them synonymously on my channel. I refer to that as the zona de passaggio, and cricothyroid dominant singing is head voice above the secondo passaggio. Thank you everyone for being here. Really great to take your questions. My intention is to do this regularly, so keep your eyes peeled on the channel, and hopefully I will see you again. Take really good care of your voices. Enjoy singing. Bye for now.